Good morning, Gulf Coast. I'm meteorologist Caroline Carruthers with the News 5 First Alert Storm Team here with a tropical update for you. Time now is 10:30 a.m. on September 24th. This is Tuesday morning. Tropical update here. Tropical Storm Helene has now formed in the Caribbean. Now, this was Potential Tropical Cyclone NINE, but now that it has a better defined center of circulation, it is starting to organize a little bit more. The National Hurricane Center and with data from the Hurricane Hunters have determined that this is now a tropical storm, and the next name on the list was Helene. So we have Tropical Storm Helene. Max winds at 45 miles per hour, has picked up a little bit of forward speed, moving to the northwest at around 12 miles per hour. So a few changes with this track. We'll walk you through it here. Expected to become a hurricane sometime tomorrow as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. A couple of things will happen when it moves into the Gulf. One, it'll strengthen pretty quickly because we have a lot of warm water in the Gulf and very little wind shear for this to deal with. We're also looking at a possibility of a larger system in size. So that means that the surf's going to kick up very quickly and that impacts will stretch well outside the cone of uncertainty because the system is expected to be very large. But also the cone of uncertainty represents where the center of the storm could pass. So normally impacts are felt outside the cone anyways. As far as the intensity goes from the National Hurricane Center, they're still maintaining a major Category 3 hurricane. Max winds at 115 miles per hour at landfall right now does look to be Thursday evening around 7 p.m. as far as this forecast goes. Now, we're still taking this with a little grain of salt just because center of circulation has started to develop. It is better defined, but as it continues to really get its act together, really form, we could see wobbles in this forecast track still, unfortunately. But that is kind of the name of the game with tropical systems, is that the track is going to shift until we have a really robust system. So looking at the track right now, it did bump just a little bit west, but we will likely see continued wobbles as the days go on, especially today as the system continues to really strengthen and get its act together. But right now, the cone of uncertainty did narrow a little bit and it did bump just a little bit west. So from Panama City to just north of Tampa is where it is targeting. Currently, the News 5 neighborhood is not in the cone of uncertainty. That does not mean that we will not see impacts. So like I said, impacts are going to stretch well outside the cone of uncertainty. Now, as far as tropical alerts, we are not included in any of these yet. We do have a tropical storm watch in place from Walton County and then to Panama City and then Cape Coral, Miami under a tropical storm watch. A hurricane watch, is in place from Panama City all the way down to Tampa and Sarasota. So most of the west coast of Florida, including the Big Bend and the Panhandle, under some sort of tropical alert. The News 5 neighborhood is not included at this time, but we will likely see some local impacts, which we'll talk about. As far as rainfall, this is one of those local impacts that we're tracking, especially Wednesday into Thursday. We're tracking 2 to 4 inches of rain, maybe could see 5 inches of rain in Northwest Florida. The highest rainfall totals will be in Northwest Florida, closest, of course, to where Helene ends up making landfall. But in our western counties, likely only inch and a half Wednesday and Thursday. As far as tropical storm winds, we did get expanded just a little bit, so more of our area now has a small chance of seeing some tropical storm force wind gusts. So 20-30 miles per hour, could see a little bit higher than that, especially in Northwest Florida, where this extends into Mobile County and into Clark County as well, and even into Jackson County, Mississippi. But most of the highest chance for tropical storm force winds, of course, is going to be closest to where Helene makes landfall. We are not included in the hurricane wind probability, which means we will likely not see hurricane force winds given this current track. Now, if that changes, we'll let you know. But as far as local impacts, kind of the catch-all here, rough surf for sure. And that starts tomorrow because the moment Helene moves into the Gulf of Mexico, things will churn up. So waves of 8 to 14 feet, more rain, 2 to 4 inches right now, highest amounts in Northwest Florida. Again, could see some of those breezy conditions, especially in Northwest Florida. Minor coastal flooding is a concern too, mainly Thursday night along the Alabama and Florida coastline. That's a little bit more of a question mark, depends on the exact landfalling location. So what do you need to know about Tropical Storm Helene? So Still targeting a more easterly track as far as the tropical storm goes right now. It will likely intensify into a hurricane pretty quickly into tomorrow, and eventually a major hurricane likely before landfall. Local impacts for us: rough surf, more rain, breezy conditions, and the potential for some coastal flooding. But again, the degree of these impacts will really depend on where this ends up making landfall. Right now, models are pretty set on the Big Bend area, but as that center continues to work its way to form and get together, we could see a couple of changes in that. So what should you be doing? Just be sure you review your tropical plan, have your kit ready to go just in case. It is the peak of hurricane season, so we got to be ready for anything, and we'll continue to keep you updated.